Joining us now, of course, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Senior Counsel for Global Affairs. Mike, okay. So they have a party at the White House yesterday, literally, to celebrate the Inflation Reduction Act. Meanwhile, the numbers come out, and inflation was reduced from 8.5 to 8.35, which is statistically insignificant. And the stock market, while James Taylor singing Fire and Rain, drops 1,300 points. And I'm thinking, okay, what do they think? The American people are oblivious to this? The reality is very clear, but this is the consequence of policies. And I think what the American people need to hear, and you've been involved in Congress, you've run the CIA, you've been Secretary of State, policies have consequences, and that's what we're seeing played out here.
Jay, that's exactly right. It was really quite something to watch the split screen yesterday with the stock market falling, people's 401ks tanking, and James Taylor singing Fire and Rain. It was all one could take. The reality is, last night, for example, I was in Chicago, I was in Illinois. I was out with a bunch of folks. They can all feel this. You can hold all the parties at the White House. You can tell all the stories you want. But in the end, they know that the decision the Biden administration has made, the decisions on energy, the decision on banking, on regulation, on farmers and agriculture, all the things, the combined effect is that President Biden's highest priority, he said his absolute highest priority is inflation, and it is destroying the lives of ordinary Americans all across the country.
You know, he actually said, President Biden said, America is vibrant and the future is bright. And I've got a lot of hope for our country because we've been through the Jimmy Carters before and we survive it. But to say that America is vibrant and future is bright, we had called earlier today, Mike, a guy that's had a business, his family's had a business in Michigan for 65 years. It sounded like they were in some kind of logistics transport business, and he said, good news, diesel fuel is only $5.60 a gallon compared to $2 a gallon a couple of years ago. And what people are starting to see is when you double the cost of things, the trickle-down effect is gigantic. So, but I want to hold out hope for the future for our country. I don't want people to think that all is lost because we've been through these before, and there is a way out.
Jay, not only is there a way out, we're going to find the way out. We're going to start in November to push back against these policies. I'm convinced of it. They're going to throw the rascals who deliver these bad outcomes for American families are going to get tossed on their ear in November. I am convinced of it. Just not. This isn't politics. This is about people's lives. This is about America. And your bigger point, Jay, I think is so true. This is a country worth fighting for. We've been through difficult challenges in our nation before, even in recent history. We always get it right. I am confident of that, not because of folks in Washington, D.C. or capitals in places like Topeka or Albany, but because the American people demand it and get it right. And in our churches, our PTA groups, our little places, America gets it right. And that is happening all across the country today. This is a nation that is worthy of fighting for, and I'm convinced the American people are going to continue to do that. And when we do, it will turn out that President Biden is right, that this is a great nation, but not because of the policies he put in place, because of the ones we reversed when power was restored to the rightful people who are getting it right for the American people.
I want to turn our attention to the situation with China and Russia. The president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, is about to meet with President Xi of China. This is an in-person meeting. You have met, these people. You've sat down with them. What's your thoughts on what we're going to see out of this? And what's the messaging being sent by this meeting?
So I've met with each of those two leaders multiple times, both men who are deeply evil, both men who are intent on denying freedom and prosperity for us here at home in America. They're meeting to demonstrate their commitment to each other on a combined basis. They have a pretty formidable military capability, a pretty formidable nuclear capability, and real economy between the two. The world should acknowledge that the Chinese Communist Party has refused to condemn the killing of Ukrainian innocent children. That alone should tell us all we need about the things we need to do and why it is these two guys are meeting today. They don't have lots of friends, but these are two that will have a deep relationship. We ought to do everything we can to make that relationship difficult, but we should be absolutely clear about the fact that those two countries, Russia and the Chinese Communist Party, are trying to undermine the way we live and to do everything necessary to push back against them.
Mr. Secretary, what would make their relationship, the relationship between Putin and Xi, painful? I mean, what would be the relationship deal breaker to make it uncomfortable for these two individuals?
Well, there's a whole handful of things we can do. One is we ought to make clear that it's not a free pass for the Chinese Communist Party to do business with the Russians. We've told everyone else you can't do business with them, but we have given China a free pass. We shouldn't permit that to happen. Second, on the energy front, the way to make it most painful is to produce American affordable energy for us here at home and for people all across the world, in Europe and in India and throughout Southeast Asia. The most valuable part of the relationship for Xi Jinping and China is that he's going to get discounted crude oil and natural gas from Russia. We should prevent that from happening, and we should make sure we dry up the profits connected to Putin's petrochemical regime.
Last question. I could tell, like me, you have great hope for the future of America.
I do. Tremendously.
Yeah, I think I don't want everybody to walk away thinking that this is, when there are solutions to these problems. They didn't come out of the air. There were policy decisions made that have impact on all of this. You got to change the policies. I think you're going to see a lot of that change in November. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being with us. As always, we appreciate you being part of